everyone. Welcome to another episode of Cryptocurrent. Your host here, Richard Carthon. And today I have a special guest across the way over out in Amsterdam working on a really cool project that is actually in the food industry. That's, as me being a fun lover of all things food, and you also mix that with blockchain, I think we have a perfect combination. So we have Bas Geelen with Bistro. How are you doing today?
Hi, Richard. Thanks for having me on. I'm doing pretty well. It's a bit of a hectic time now as we're in the food sector, as you said, and we're coming towards the end of the year, and so that's always busy. But doing well. Thanks for having me on the show.
Of course, man. Well, glad you could join us. Before we learn more about all the amazing things you're doing with Bistro, I want to learn more about you. Can you give us a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah. So a bit of background on myself. I started out in blockchain back in 2017. I was still a student back then. I was doing my master's degree. Studied business, and then I sort of rolled through a friend into crypto. Started going more and more down the rabbit hole. Started investing myself, and I ended up really liking it and really thought it was very interesting. And so much so that I actually wrote my master's thesis on Bitcoin and about the implications for what you can do with it in the real world and how news and all these kinds of different things affect it. And then afterwards, towards the end of my studies and afterwards, I started working as a consultant for blockchain startups. Did that going from one to the other, sort of advising in the sort of the fetal stages of projects about how to get investors, about how to present yourself, what's important to have in your business plan. Did that for a while, and then I ended up with Bistro, which was also back at its infancy then, which was just an idea that we were putting together in a business plan. And I ended up liking it so much that I never ended up leaving again. And that was back in 2018.
All right. Well, that's quite the journey. Well, like you said, you were studying this and got into it back in 2017. What was it about blockchain that made you want to study it and learn more about it?
I guess just how different it is from anything that you do within the normal financial system, because it's so, I think the beauty about blockchain is that you have full control over everything you do yourself. And that's a lot of control, and that's good to have, but it also comes with risks. If you lose it, there's nobody to fall back on. Private key's gone, then your private key's gone. You all know the story about this guy looking for a 300 million hardware wallet somewhere in a landfill in the UK. So that's right. Sort of what you see is what you get. And the technology behind it intrigued me a lot as well. So that's what I started with to understand. And as I said, got deeper into it from there and saw there was a lot of potential in this. And I tried to combine that with what I was doing for my master's degree at the time, which was also in strategic consultancy, and sort of melded that together with blockchain.
Yeah, so it's interesting, like all the different applications that you can bring into blockchain, and yours is one of the most unique that I think we've had on the show. It's definitely a first in one of one that I've seen a blockchain application being tied in with the food industry. So you've created Bistro. So this is back in 2018. Can you give us kind of the story of like what made you go in this direction or help to create this company, and kind of walk us through where you are today within Bistro?
Yeah. So what intrigued me about Bistro that is very, very tied to physical business as well. And with a lot of the projects, they're sort of hard to grasp ideas, in a sense that it's difficult for many people to get accustomed to what it exactly is. I mean, even if you just try to explain how Bitcoin works to somebody who has no idea about it, it's hard to get that across even. Right. And what intrigued me with Bistro is, that it becomes very tangible in a way. And that's also how we started with building Bistro out. in the beginning. So we wrote the entire business plan with the idea of from a basis of having blockchain be a central focal point of the platform and the product or the service that we provided to customers. But what we did then is we flipped it upside down. So what you normally do is you see that you start with a business plan, you start raising funds, you sell your token, and then you start building your actual product. But we did the other way around because we already had a round of funding from private investors. So we actually built out the entire platform ourselves, and then we launched it, and we wanted to prove first in our home market that it worked, and then afterwards we did a raise. So that took quite a while for us, but it was very important for us to do it this way because we wanted to test if there was a market fit first.
Right.
And we launched it in March of 2020, and then we spent the whole year optimizing it, redeveloping the platform, and of course that's an ongoing process that's going to keep going. Until we had a year behind us, and then a year later to the date that we launched, we launched our IDO. So
wow.
That's the whole tangible. Having it tied to a tangible physical product is what intrigued me about Bistroo the most.
Yeah, I mean, you went almost the traditional route of creating a startup and then tying it back into crypto and the blockchain. But real quick, just for the audience, at a base level, what is Bistroo?
So Bistroo is a peer-to-peer marketplace for food and beverages. And what that means is that at the core is the values that we think that is a thing that makes blockchain great, which is, obviously peer-to-peer transactions and contact without having a big bad intermediary somewhere in the middle. That's also what we started Bistroo with. So that's in essence what it is. But I guess what I would say more practically is through the platform you can order food and drinks, and that's either with restaurants or with specialty producers who send stuff over multiple days.
Got it. Okay, so me as a end user, I use Bistroo. I'm on the website or the app, and I go on there and I can see, I guess, different restaurants that are within the platform, and then I want to order the food. Do I use tell me about that onboarding, right? Do I use a debit card or a credit card, or do I have to buy your native token? How does that work?
Well, our goal was always to not push users in one direction, or at least not to force them into one direction, because again, we want to be as agnostic as possible. So you can pay with debit, with credit card, and now we're also starting to integrate. We integrated our native token, the BIST token, but we're also integrating a lot more other tokens. So I think we're up to 12 different cryptos that you can pay with at merchants who accept it. So
nice.
Yeah, there's a whole plethora of ways you can pay in, but obviously, our token has different benefits to it than other ones would.
Right. So walk me through that. So as a potential user, or even as someone who hears about this, is wow, that sounds really unique. I haven't heard something like this. What are some of the utilities of owning the native token?
Yeah. So right now we have discounts running for paying with crypto. And we're sort of integrating benefits for merchants, so for the restaurant and shop holders, and for consumers on a rolling basis, because obviously it's going in different steps that we integrate all these things. But sort of the first ones would be that you get a cash back, which would actually be a token back discount that's higher in BIST than it would be if you pay with another crypto or with fiat. You can earn BIST by inviting friends and introducing new restaurants. You get rewards for reviewing, And then we're also really working from the whole Web3 mindset, whereas with Web2 now you're sort of there's a lot of free services like Facebook, Instagram, you name it. And we say free, but actually that's it's not free. I mean, you're the product, you're paying with your data.
Right.
We want to go back to to the Web3 mindset where you get paid for contributing data. So that would also be data rewards for sharing your user info on the platform and getting rewarded with that in BIST. And on the merchant side, we also want to start integrating stuff like staking BIST to get lower commission fees as a restaurant holder, unlock certain premium dashboard functions by using BIST, and purchasing stuff through the store that you might need, like bags, stuff like this. Just anything you can really, and that you get an advantage with for using BIST.
Right. Yeah. So it sounds like there's a lot of different utilities for the token itself. And, one of the things that I'm sure is popping up in other people's heads and even in mine as well is there's two kind of different user journeys with this, right? So there's the merchant themselves, the people who are the companies who are coming on as restaurants or as food trucks or whomever that want to come on and advertise their food that people can come and purchase. And then, of course, you have your end consumer, aka potentially like a me, that comes on and is trying to order some food. It can have it either picked up, delivered, etc. What are the benefits, or how would you say you're truly different as compared to some of the other competitors in the space?
Yeah. So what really bothered us with this, and what really bothered the founder, Bas Geelen, with this whole system, it's very geared towards the intermediary, and you're sort of it's sort of do or die for a lot of the restaurants on these platforms. So the party that's in the middle charges very high fees. I mean, we all know stories probably from fees going from 13% on the lower end to all the way up to around 40%. And that's obviously a huge chunk if you're a restaurant owner. With us, that commission fee, for example, is only 5%. Wow. And this is just to start, because even with payouts, it takes maybe one to 8 weeks to get your money. And that's obviously a long time to wait for your cash flow if you're a very small business. And there's a plethora of stuff like that. It generally just becomes very cumbersome to have to depend on this party that's in between you and your end customer.
So real quick on that, just to clarify, so you're saying that other platforms, if you are on them, can take 1 to 8 weeks to even get your money back that you're owed?
Yeah, they function as banks essentially. So they have a bank license, and the customer pays them, and then they pay you. But with us, it's, for example, it's direct payment. So we don't touch it; it goes straight to a bank account. So there's a lot of these cases where you're
faster and cheaper. So sorry, I just want to point that out. So it's faster and cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. And you're in charge of all your own stuff. So we give the merchant, we literally give them the tools to run your own business. Like, you don't need to come to us to change a menu item, or if you have something out of stock, or even if you want to run a discount and make a coupon or something like that. The merchant can all do this themselves. And that's not the case with other platforms. And that's sort of a win-win essentially, because that's also what allows us to have these low fees, right? Because we're taking out a lot of the overhead that the other platforms have that we don't have now. Correct. So in that sense, it's a win-win. And that technically could also translate to the end consumer. I mean, if they have lower costs, they could charge lower on the consumer side. But what we've also been seeing on that end is that consumers really care once they find out how our business model works, that they would much rather order through us than through a platform that just charge them these high fees. So it's something that flows through that to the consumer. That's not directly a benefit to them, but is a benefit for their favorite restaurant,
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then
absolutely.
in the end, what we want to make it is that we get to a point where we can have a fully customized platform for each consumer. So if you do provide your data, we can, for example, recommend you restaurants that fit within the pattern that you're ordering with.
Right. And I guess one more wrinkle to throw into this as well, because I saw that they also, on your platform, there can also be deliveries, right? So then you also have your delivery people as well. So is it for them, they're also being able to see payments come in as fast and they're not getting crushed by fees as well. So it's kind of all three within the paradigm are able to move faster, get paid quicker, and everyone has a little bit more control over what they're able to set up as like a business model.
Well, on the note of delivery, we don't do any delivery ourselves. So we don't have any delivery drivers within our ecosystem. Just because this is, again, twofold, just because we've seen that it's almost impossible for any business to get this profitable if you're hiring these delivery drivers, because it's such a big expense and it yields relatively low income for you as the one who pays all these drivers. And because what we've seen in our market and in a lot of the markets around us, upwards of 90% of the restaurants have their own delivery drivers. So it hasn't been a need for us to have delivery drivers working for us.
I see. Okay. Well, thanks for making that distinction. But all the same, man, this sounds very, very unique. It sounds like very appealing to people. So for people listening right now, they're like, wow, this is really cool. I have my own kind of restaurant, and this would be a really awesome platform to be able to come on to. Can you kind of walk us through what does that onboarding process look like for both your potential merchant and also for a potential consumer as well?
Yeah, and that's always great to hear, by the way, because that's also the crypto spirit. I think it's community driven. It's for the community. It's for everyone. So that's also the sounds we really love to hear, and we want to build this as a community focused thing. So we want to do it together with everybody, and that's also been great to hear that enthusiasm coming from our community. But in terms of onboarding for restaurants, it's really rather easy. They just fill in a short form on our website, and then one of our account managers will reach out to them. So far, we're only live in the Netherlands, as that's our testing market. But this year was mainly for building infrastructure and building our team, and next year is mainly for scaling. And the goal is to also have this onboarding process, which takes about a day now from the moment that we receive their menu to have them live. But the goal is to have this also be fully self-service. So essentially, it's going to be a portal where they just come in, they fill in all the info they need, and the shop gets put live automatically. And that's also with the aim of expanding globally.
Wow, that's cool. So it sounds like it's pretty easy, and it sounds like you've already had some pretty good traction. How are you being received so far for all the users that have been on Bistro so far?
Yeah, that's been really good. I mean, the reviews have been very good so far, and reception also with quite a minimal amount of marketing. I mean, a lot of it has been word of mouth, has been restaurants referring us to others. And because the fees are so low, the restaurants also are less hesitant to push us to their customers to order through as well. But yeah, I can give you some live data, and that's also on our website on bistro.io. But so we've been live since March of 2020, and so far we've had 26,620 active customers and almost 2.5 million in terms of platform volume. So amount of orders that's been run through the platform.
And that's great, man. really cool accomplishment, and it's just the beginning. So, kudos to you and your team for getting this off the ground. What's kind of on the roadmap for Bistro in the future? Like, what are some cool things people can expect going into 2022?
I mean, as I said, this year was really for building our infrastructure up, and next year is really for expanding that out. So next year and then the years after that, obviously. But so we're now only in the Netherlands, and we're looking to scale that up in the next year and go abroad as well. But really, what our long-term goal is to have bistro.com, as we call it, and have that really grow out. And that's really where the self-service portal lies, or eventually also a developer portal will lie where developers can create plugins for the platform. So really, the end goal is to have a community-powered platform that just is the infrastructure that food users, so restaurants as well as customers anywhere in the world, can use to order their food against low fees.
For sure. So that's exciting. Everyone listening, make sure you go check that out. I know I'm looking forward to when it expands in my neighborhood, and I'll be looking out for it. But, Bas, you've been able to give us a lot of really cool information and tell us a lot about Distro. But as I wrap up interviews, I always like to finish on two fun questions. The first one is, with all the information you have right now, with both the crypto and blockchain space, and even with your own startup, with getting all this off the ground, if you can go and impart 1 to 2 pieces of wisdom to yourself when you first got started back in 2017, 2018, what would you tell yourself?
That's a difficult question. Yeah, I guess the first one would be to not really stress that much about what you know now, and sort of be open to really learning as you go, because still looking back now, it's been crazy the growth we've been through. And if you just go into it with an open mind, that's what I think is the most important thing,
Yeah.
And another piece of advice I would tell myself, probably to take more breaks. And just because then if you're working constantly, you don't really get the chance to sort of zoom out and look at it from a different perspective. And doing that more consistently, it's something I've been working on more consistently this year. That really helps with sort of getting a new fresh look on it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I co-sign that one specifically. I've had to do that a lot myself this year, and it's been extremely helpful for my creative process, and also just continue to have the energy to go hard as we, are continuing to build things out. So I appreciate that, Bas. But as we wrap up here, what is a final thought that you want to leave with all the listeners here today?
Final thoughts. I think that we're just at the, this might sound cliche, but I think we're just at the impetus of really moving with crypto into a more mature stage, where we really are going to see a lot more protocols where crypto can make a difference, and really more real world implications and real world use cases. So that's something I would want your viewers to look out for and to prepare for, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. Just like you said, we're at the beginning. We're only a decade in. We got a couple more decades to go of this being built out. And it's cool because even if you're listening at this now and you think, oh, I missed the boat, like I haven't been in since 2017, or I haven't been in since 2013, etc., you're still so early right now. Don't overlook that. You're at a really, really cool point, and just get involved. Find ways to do it. So, Bas, I really appreciate all the time you spent with us. What are ways that people can learn more about everything at Bistro, and learn more about you and be able to connect with you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks again for having me. And you're more than welcome to come check us out and ask us any questions. All our info is on bistro.io, and the live platform in the Netherlands is on bistro.nl. So you're more than welcome to check out the stores there as well. And you can find us on Telegram also. And Our mods are really friendly. We're in there, and drop us any questions you might have, and we'll be happy to have you.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you so much for being with us. And for everyone listening, stay cryptocurrent.